What's up, everybody? Welcome on in, Birds IQ, a January playoff edition of Birds IQ. Yes, that's right. It's me, Kyle Quinn, here with you, right here on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. And I got good news and I got bad news. The bad news is you're probably wondering why I'm not in a clown costume at this very moment. And, well, that's because I checked the tape. I rolled the tape and, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I declared that if the Eagles won or lost more than two meaningful games this season, then I would wear the clown costume, full with the makeup, the headgear, the nose, the clothes, the whole getup. I said that I would wear it for the entire rest, the entire rest of the offseason, the entire rest of the season. I checked the tape and I said, and I will quote myself here, we lose more than two meaningful games with the starters. That includes Jalen Hurts playing from beginning to end of the game. So the fact that Jalen Hurts was not in two of the games that we ended up losing, the Birds were 14-1 when Jalen Hurts was a starter, and we're going off of that. So no clown costume for me, unfortunately. I will, however, stake more pieces of that costume as we move forward throughout the rest of the season. Hopefully it continues on for a few more weeks here. The good news, however, is the Eagles have a playoff game Saturday. Saturday night, 8:15. We will talk about it all. First, let me run you through some of our sponsors here. First up, we got Philly Sports Trips. So book your trip to the Birds Ultimate Arizona Trip Part 2. It's February 10th through 13th. 100% fully refundable deposits that will be coming up in less than a month here. So make sure you go to phillysportstrips.com for that. Also brought to you by Kelly's Corner Bar on 400 Powhatan Avenue in Leicester, PA. You see their specials right there: $8 wings, $5 burgers, and $3 bottles. Of course, Light, Bud Light, or Miller Lite. So catch us there for Eagles Game Day Live. Kelly's Corner, that'll be Saturday. You're not going to want to miss that. And then, of course, take some time to take a peek at all of our other shows. We are, as you can tell, pretty much a 24/7 network. So feel free to check out all of these other wonderful shows. And, of course, you can catch them all on the website at www.eopsports.com as well as thepaintedlines.com. So make sure you check out all that stuff. All right. Let us get down to business because, like I said, we have a playoff game coming up on Saturday, Eagles, Giants. And we had a whole ton of other playoff games last weekend, and of course the division round upcoming. So I'll take a look back at some of my predictions here, in how I thought the divisions would shake out, and we'll laugh at how bad they are, or maybe I'll be patting myself on the back a little bit with how good they were. We will see, but I need to start here because I'm having a hard time with all of this nonsense and the concern over how the Eagles season ended. Oh my God, the Giants game at week 18. We barely beat their backups with our starters. Oh no, the coaching staff. Oh no, Jalen Hurts is going to be hurt. We're injured. Come on, guys. Give me a freaking break. This is ridiculous. It was so plainly obvious that the Eagles' one goal in that New York game was to go in there. Their one goal was for the Jalen Hurts to come out of there completely unscathed. Now, I know this is going to sound crazy, but the Eagles pretty much had a playoff spot locked in, and I think they would have preferred to go into the playoffs as a 5 seed with a healthy Jalen Hurts rather than the home team all throughout with Gardner Minshew. And I agree with them. I think that gives them their best chance to win the Super Bowl. So I completely agree with how they approach that. But people have forgotten about this team and just how amazing they've been all year. 14-1, as I mentioned earlier, with the starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts. The coaching staff every single week was coming up with new wrinkles, and we were all so impressed with how Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni were calling the offense and developing Jalen Hurts and using the talent that they had in the correct way. That hasn't changed. It was we had a let me actually take you back. We'll start with the Tennessee Titans game. We go into that game and everyone had all these concerns with, is the coaching staff gonna be able to identify the weaknesses on the Titans and be able to stop the run with Derrick Henry, and we have this gauntlet of great running backs, Saquon Barkley. We dominated the Titans, pretty much sent their season down the tubes. After that, I don't think anyone was considering the Tennessee Titans a tough team to play necessarily, but the Eagles took care of their business in that game. They did the same thing against the Giants. In New York, we hung 48 points on them and ended up having our starters taken out of the game before the end of the fourth quarter there. So you have that. And then, of course, you have the Chicago Bears game, the one with when Jalen Hurts got injured. And I know a lot of people had gripes with the way the coaching staff ran their offense in that game, but I don't. That's the offense that got them to, I believe it was 13-1 up to that point, or past that point when they beat the Bears. I believe that got them to 13-1. So that was the offense that got them there. That's the offense that is still going to win them a Super Bowl. That was the offense that was unstoppable throughout this entire season. And I know it ended up getting Jalen Hurts hurt, but that's football. That's how we won games with our quarterback. That's how we're going to continue to win games with this quarterback and with this offense. So, yeah, that sucked. He had to miss the very next week against Dallas, a game in which our offense played fantastic, even with Gardner Minshew back there. The defense, not so much. Dak was kind of sitting there picking apart the zones, and we'll get to a little bit of Jonathan Gannon and how he may perform in these playoffs just a little bit. But yeah, Dak picked apart the secondary. The defense did not have a great game. The 3rd and 30, brutal. I know. Trust me, I know. But the offense played great. So the offensive coaching staff gets a great grade in that game for me. The next week against the Saints, it's hard to tell really with the game plan when they go out there and Gardner Minshew is pretty much just stinking up the joint. I mean, the Saints got the ball first and had the ball for, I believe, the first 9 minutes of the game and punched it in. So automatically you're starting to dig yourself out of a hole there with your backup quarterback. That game was just a disaster. And of course, Minshew threw the pick six to pretty much put the Eagles completely out of it. So that one, again, I don't really put too much blame on the coaching staff. I just think that was a poor effort out of Gardner Minshew. And then, of course, you get to week 18, where, as I just mentioned, the Eagles coaching staff did not want to put anything on tape. They came out of there and they just wanted to win the game. And clearly they were not running Jalen Hurts in their usual offense with the RPOs. And I think that's I think that's one of the main reasons why they struggled so much to punch the ball in the red zone, right? You saw them end up stalling out on drives and having to settle for a lot of field goals, which ultimately didn't lead to their high output and points that they usually had throughout this whole season. But I think that's something that you're not going to see in the playoffs. You're going to see them run their entire offense, and I think everything's going to be fine. And all the people who have all these great concerns about the Eagles, they limped into the playoffs. It's ridiculous because there's really no precedent for how you went to the playoffs. There's no tried and true way, right? I mean, I'll run you through a few examples. I mean, how about the Cowboys, for instance, this week, who I think they got their ass kicked by the Commanders in Week 18. I forget what the final score was, but it was not a good game at all. Prescott was horrible. The entire Dallas defense was bad. Their offense was even worse. And they came out and they took it to Tom Brady and the Bucs the very next week. Dallas last season, I will specifically call back to the Week 18 game when Dallas came into Philly with all their starters playing and all of our backups because we had nothing to play for. And Dallas hung 50 on backups. And I remember their exact quotes were, we got our swagger back. We got our swagger back. Well, how did that end up working out for them the very next week when they only put up 16 points against the 49ers in a loss? So, and then, of course, you got the Green Bay Packers every year who go into the playoffs super hot, the number one seed most often, and then they end up blowing it. And then our favorite example, the Eagles in 2017, who we all know how they looked when the season was ending. There were people around here calling for Nate Sudfeld to be the starter over Nick Foles, and we all know how that one ended up turning out. They won the Super Bowl. So all that matters is who is the better team on game day, and the Eagles with Jalen Hurts have been that team 14 out of 15 weeks. I don't understand how people are forgetting just, excuse me, the sheer dominance that this team put on display week after week after week on both sides of the ball. I mean, they were just crushing teams. So that's really how I feel on that. I think people just really are looking for reasons to be upset, and I think people have this. It's a natural reaction to, sort of not believe that it's as good as it can be, or it's too good to be true, right? So I think people should just enjoy the ride, man. This is going to be a really fun week. I think they're going to beat the Giants, and I'm not going to say they're going to kick their ass, but it doesn't really matter if they kick their ass or not. All that matters is that they win the game and they advance next week. So we'll talk a little bit about that game, of course, and we'll talk a little bit about who the possible opponents might be, and then we'll run through some of the rest of the teams in the other conference. So before I talk about Wild Card Weekend, though, I want to go through how I thought the season would play out, at least up to this point, and then we'll take a look at what's really what here. And of course, stay tuned for my assessment of the Eagles-Giants game coming up. So out of the NFC, and we'll start with the NFC East, I did pick the Eagles to win the division at 12-5. I had Dallas coming in right behind them, Washington at 3, however, and then the Giants. I did not expect the Giants to be as good as they are now, and I'll give them credit because they're a pretty decent team. They made the playoffs, won a playoff game. They're a well-coached team. They look like they're getting healthy now, and I will give them their credit that they're not as terrible of a team as I expected them to be before the season started. But I got the top 2 in there right, the Eagles and Cowboys. I did not, however, expect 3 NFC East teams, almost 4 NFC East teams to end up making the NFC playoffs. So that was very interesting there. And then out of the West, I had the San Francisco 49ers winning that division, which they did. Unfortunately, I had the Rams coming in at 2, and they were just brutal this season. The Cards at 3, Seattle at 4. Pretty wrong about some of those lower end teams in the NFC West there. Seattle ended up creeping in a playoff spot. And, of course, losing to the 49ers, and I'll touch on that in just a minute as well. Out of the NFC North, man, who expected the Packers to not be the team to come out? Not me. I had the Vikings at 2 and the Packers at 1. The Bears at 3 and the Lions at 4. Man, Lions almost made the playoffs as well. I had the Vikings in as a wild card team, and I also had the Saints in as a wild card team. That was not a good call by me. I did have the Bucks winning that division, but I had them at 13-4, not the horrific 8-9 that they actually were. And boy, did they not belong in the playoffs at all. I had the Saints number 2, Panthers 3, and the Falcons 4. I mean, all the you could flip any of those teams, and you probably would have been. They're all pretty similar in how terrible they are, and man, the Saints, we did not do ourselves any favors by losing that game to the Saints. It is quite unfortunate, but I had the Saints in as a wild card. The Saints were not, as we are aware, the wild card team. And the Packers, man, I I can't believe all they had to do was beat the Lions in week 17 or week 18 to get in, and they did not. So that's how I saw the NFC shaking out there. Then over in the AFC, of course, I had the Chiefs coming out of the West. I think a lot of people did too. The Chargers coming in at number 2, the Broncos at 3, and the Raiders 4. Man, I had the Broncos at 3, but I believe I had them as my 6th seed. Yep, I had the Broncos as my 6th seed. Broncos were just horrific. They were so bad this season. We'll get to the Chargers' fate also in just a minute too, but the Raiders, that was quite a disaster as well. The AFC West was not the SEC of the NFL, as a lot of people predicted before the season started. Not the case at all. Then over in the NFC North, you got the Ravens, who I said would win the division. They did not. That was the Bengals, who I said would start a little bit slow and then pick it up, but not be good enough to ultimately win the division. Partially true. They started a little bit slow, but they did end up coming through in the end, and they're playing really, really good football right now. So they sit atop that division, and they are going to be playing the Bills in round 2. So we'll talk about how that game went with them and the Ravens there. Man, the Steelers, very, very close to a playoff appearance, 9-8. I had them at 3, which is where they ended up. But I did not expect them to have a winning season like they did. Mike Tomlin, yet again, does not fall below 500. So you got that. And, of course, the Browns coming in at 4. And then the AFC South, man, I botched this one pretty good because I had the Colts, Titans, Jags, and then the Texans. So I didn't have anybody but the Colts making the playoffs as the division winner there. Obviously, that was not the case. The Jags ended up stealing that one. Dougie P Good for my guy, Dougie P. And then over in the East, I had Bills 1, Dolphins 2, Pats 3, and Jets 4. So actually kind of nailed that. As for the rest, we'll see. My AFC championship it's not still intact. And my NFC championship, however, is still intact. And I will touch on that when we move towards next week. So that was my predictions a little bit. Got a little bit of a mixed bag. I think I nailed some of the top end teams, but I think that sort of speaks to just what the NFL was this season. It was really just there were a few great teams, maybe even 4 great teams, and then the rest were all just really mediocre to below average at best. So with that, the stage has been set for the divisional round after what was an interesting wild card weekend, to say the very least. Definitely more so than last season, with the Eagles and the Steelers getting their asses kicked pretty much right off the bat as a 7 seed, losing to the 2 seed. Now the 7 seeds this season did not really hold up. So I guess sort of similar, but I think some of the other games were a little bit closer than they were in the wild card last season. So we'll start with San Francisco at Seattle. I'll give you my thoughts on what I saw in each game here. 43-21, the final in this one. San Francisco comes out on top, but that really wasn't indicative of how the game went. I think Seattle was in it really until late in the game. They were driving. They were down only 6 points, and Geno fumbled. But I'll tell you, what I saw was a leaky San Francisco defense. I saw no Seattle pass rush, something that the Eagles will most certainly bring to a potential matchup with the 49ers. Seattle got 1 sack on Brock Purdy. I saw a San Francisco team that's healthy on offense and a very QB-friendly offense as well. Ultimately, what I see is a team that's very beatable in the not-so-friendly confines of Lincoln Financial Field. Now, a rookie quarterback has never taken his team to a Super Bowl, or won the Super Bowl, I'm sorry. And I don't believe it's going to start with 7th round Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy this season. Going to be a little tough for him to get through the link, I believe, and get them all the way to the Super Bowl. So I do think that's a good thing for the Eagles. And look, they're going to play the Cowboys, which ultimately I think benefits the Eagles in the fact that one of those 2 teams are going to be eliminated in that game. That's just the way it's going to work. And we're going to catch only one of those teams in the championship. So we only have to deal with one of San Francisco or Dallas. That just makes our path just a little bit easier. So we'll move on to Saturday night. Chargers at the Jags, man. 31-30, the final in that one. Jags win, but oh boy, Dougie P, man. That was a 27-0 Chargers lead at one point in that one. Trevor Lawrence, 4 interceptions in the first half. My God, oh no, Dougie P, what is going on, man? But I'm wondering what the guy said at halftime, because the Chargers miss a field goal to go up 13. The Jags score. Then you get the Bosa penalty. The Jags go for 2. It's 28-30. The Chargers go 3 and out, and then the Jags go down and kick a Cameron Dicker field goal, by the way, to end the game. So, man, good for the Chargers, or good for the Jags. Good for Dougie P. Really happy to see that he's building something down there in Jacksonville after he had to bring them up from the ashes. They were a complete and utter disaster with Urban Meyer there. So very happy to see that for Dougie P. And then, of course, there's the fallout with the Chargers. Does not appear that they're going to be parting ways with Brandon Staley. Instead, it looks like they are going to go the route of moving on from their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. And, I'll say that's a good enough move. Maybe not good enough, but it's a good start. Because, my God, I saw Justin Herbert's passing chart from that game, and he didn't attempt a single pass over 30 yards. That's Justin Herbert we're talking about here, not throwing a ball more than 30 yards down the field. So that's just a crime. It's criminal what that offense was doing to Justin Herbert. That's going to be very interesting to see how that offense looks next year with a different coordinator there. But, the players have obviously voiced their support for Brandon Staley to stay as the guy. And I would never go the defensive route if I were hiring a head coach in the NFL. I just wouldn't. It's an offensive league. The game has changed, and I think you need offense to win in the NFL these days. So That's just how I feel about Brandon Staley. But we'll move on to Sunday. Dolphins at the Bills, 34-31. Bills, the final. No Tua. This was a game that looked close, but for some reason to me, I just never felt like it was in doubt for the Bills, which might sound a little bit weird, but I mean, I will say that with Tua, the Dolphins probably might win the game. I don't know. There was an awful delay of game penalty that killed the Dolphins' final drive. Um, Making a 4th and 1, 4th and 5, and that was what that was. So for the Dolphins, there were, I guess, a lot of uncertainty after that one, which is weird to me. Though they say they'll retain Tua, I don't know why they wouldn't, because they really only were bad when Tua was not playing, when they had to go with Skylar Thompson. I don't see any reason why Mike McDaniel's job should be in jeopardy either. So, excuse me. As for the Bills, I gotta say, I'll get into their matchup this week, but there's one guy I just do not trust on the Buffalo Bills right now. And man, I'm going to sound crazy again for saying this, but that guy is Josh Allen. These red zone turnovers have been awful. I mean, he's putting the ball in harm's way too much, and that is going to come back and bite them against any team that's not Skylar Thompson's Miami Dolphins. So that's something I'm going to be looking out for Buffalo Bills, and I know they're America's darling right now. With the whole situation a few weeks ago, and understandably so, but I'm just not seeing it with Josh Allen this season. I think he's going to be the thing that ends up burying the Bills in the playoffs this year. So then you got 4:30 on Sunday, the Giants and Vikings. This one delivered the upset special that, well, I think America predicted. 31-24. Giants was the final score. The teams traded blows to start the game. Very back and forth pretty much the whole time, but the Giants took it to the Vikings, and Daniel Jones played really well on offense. I won't do too much on the Giants right now. I'll save them for later. But as for the Vikings, well, this was awaiting them, let's be honest, for quite a while. There's no reason that they should have had the record that they did, 13-4. They had the 30th ranked defense, and that got shredded up all season. And Cousins delivered in the only way he knows how. He didn't. And I mean, look, the Vikings went into the playoffs, I think, with a negative point differential, the worst for any 13 and 13 win team ever. And they really didn't blow anybody out. They were winning a lot of close games, but they got blown out a few times. Once by Green Bay, Dallas, the Eagles. So, and they almost got blown out by the freaking Colts had they not, pulled off that ridiculous comeback, and the Colts just completely blew it. So, with that, we do have our opponent for Saturday, and I'll let you know how I think that one goes in just a few minutes. But then we got Sunday night, divisional matchup, AFC North battle. It's the Ravens at the Bengals, 24-7 was the final in that one. The Bengals won the game. This was pretty close as well. It was Sam Hubbard's 98-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That was the big swing play in this one. Baltimore was driving with the game tied at 17, and Baltimore was about to take the lead, but nope. Bengals take it all the way to the house. It's a huge swing. So the Bengals advance and give us the matchup with Buffalo that we've been really waiting for a few weeks now. But the real story here is with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, because there was very clearly something fishy going on with that whole situation. Jim Harbaugh was expressing clear frustrations with how the whole thing was being handled, and Lamar Jackson's PCL injury, and with him not playing, he missed the entire final month of the season, including the playoff game. And of course, there's speculation that he was holding out for the contract and not wanting to put his body at risk when he has the chance to cash in the way he does. So I think that's a mistake on the Ravens' part for not paying him before the season started. But who knows? Maybe his knee was just really flaring up. But that's going to be something that we're going to want to monitor as the offseason goes along here with the Lamar Jackson saga. Does he stay in Baltimore? I know they just fired Greg Roman today, so maybe that's something that they're doing to entice or appease Lamar Jackson. But really, the only thing they need to do is give him a contract. And they need to give him some weapons as well. I mean, they have Mark Andrews, but he's a possession tight end. They need some legitimate playmakers on that offense, and not just, guys who can run the ball and run in the straight line like Mark Andrews can. So then finally, this was the least fun of all the games. Dallas at Tampa Bay, 31-14. Dallas, the final score. But that 14 may as well have been 0 because the Bucs got both of those touchdowns in garbage time. It was just a non-competitive game all the way through. Nothing really in the game worth talking about besides maybe the 4 missed extra points by Brett Maher, which is, I mean, that's just I don't know how you even get the chance to miss 4 extra points, let alone actually miss them. And then, of course, you got Dak freaking out on the sideline, slamming his helmet, yelling, "Go for 2," whatever. That was hilarious. I hope they hang on to Brett Maher and he blows them the game next week against the 49ers. That would be absolutely hilarious. And I would love to see Jerry Jones' face after that. So, look, Dallas played well. They handled business. Dak played a great game, turnover free. So did their defense. But let's be honest, the Bucs did not belong in the playoffs. Brady looks like he doesn't even practice with these wide receivers. I don't know what was going on with that all season. And their defense got zero pressure on Dak. I mean, they have Vita Vea up the middle, but other than that, they really have no guys who can rush the passer with the guys that they need to pull back and have back in coverage. So, just an all around brutal day for the Buccaneers. They got rolled off the field there, and the Cowboys didn't really have to break a sweat. So, Cowboys will have a date with the 49ers, which ends up, like I said, being beneficial to the Eagles if we want to count our chickens here a little bit and look ahead for the Giants. But the fallout with the Bucs now is going to be the very interesting thing to watch. Where will Tom Brady go? Is he going to stay? I don't think so. He seemed to be giving his goodbyes to the fans in his post-game presser. I could see him going to the Raiders. But there's not too many great, juicy situations out there for a guy like Tom Brady to go to. And, he's 46, so he wants to win a Super Bowl right now. And I don't know how much longer the guy's got because it seems like that clock is finally starting to tick a little bit for old Tom Brady. So now all the divisional round matchups are locked in, and we will dive into that in just a minute. But let us get back to the Eagles here, shall we? I think everybody is overrating what the Giants did last week versus the Minnesota Vikings. And people have forgotten what the Eagles have done this entire season. The Giants are a lot more healthy than they were in the first meeting, so I don't think this is going to be a repeat of either of the two matchups, especially with the Eagles running their, I don't even. It was an exhibition game. I don't even know what to take from the second game, but I'm not going to have any takeaways from either of these games when it comes to this matchup with the Eagles and Giants right now, because as I said, the Giants are pretty much a completely different team than they were in either of those two meetings. They have Adoree Jackson back. I think they're going to have Leonard Williams back for, I don't think they were available in either of those matchups. So they got some key defensive guys healthy. And the last time we played the Giants in the first meeting, Saquon Barkley was dealing with a little bit of a neck issue, I believe, and he was sort of ineffective over the last few weeks before then, and of course that week as well. So if I'm the Giants, what am I going to do? Well, first of all, sadly, you know what they're going to try and do, and they're going to be going after that Jalen Hurts shoulder, right? Pretty similar to what Jadeveon Clowney did to Carson Wentz in the 2019 playoffs. If you're the Giants, you almost say, yeah, I'll take a 15-yard penalty to take Jalen Hurts out of the game. I mean, it's sad, but that's just the way it is. So Jalen Hurts is, he's definitely going to be a target for the defense, and he knows it. He said it. But if I'm the Giants, you're obviously going to look at the tape from, the one real Eagles loss of the entire season, and that was against Washington. So that's really all they have to work off of when it comes to how anybody beat this Eagles offense. And let's be honest, I mean, that was a game where we turned the ball over 4 times and still had a chance to win. So it's tough. There's really not much to go off of for the Giants. But what did Washington do in that game? You're going to do what Gannon's defense allows you to do, and that's sustain drives, that's run the ball, pick up your chunks 3-4 yards every play and just hold the ball forever. And they're going to try and do that with Jones and Barkley. They're going to try and keep the ball away from our offense. That's a smart thing for the Giants to do. And then on defense, we know that Wink is a blitzer. Wink Martindale, the Giants defensive coordinator, he's a big blitzer. So he's going to be sending a lot of heat. He was getting free rushes to Jalen Hurts in that Week 18 game a lot. But, of course, again, I think we were purposely not showing some of our blitz pickup protection schemes and other things to, just to throw the Giants off the scent a little bit. So, he's going to be sending pressure on Jalen Hurts. Dexter Lawrence, he was sort of a game wrecker versus Minnesota, but he's going to be dealing with a little bit of a different animal. And Jason Kelsey, remember before week 2, we had Luke Braun on. He joined us from Locked On Vikings podcast, and he knows his Vikings very well. And he told us, and I quote, Bradbury he's the center for the Vikings. He is basically Jason Kelsey, but bad. And that's what we saw. And Dexter Lawrence just pretty much dominated him in that matchup the other day. So they're going to be looking to get tons of pressure on Jalen Hurts with the blitz, and they're going to be looking to hold on to the ball, keep it out of our hands. So if I'm the Eagles, the plan's pretty simple. I mean, you got to play your player game on offense, the RPO thing, the offense that we've had success with all season. They're going to have to be disciplined on defense, staying in the rush lanes, making sure they got eyes on Jones and Barkley the entire time. Because, like I said, they're going to be trying to milk that clock, and Jones and Barkley are running roughshod all over that Minnesota Vikings defense. And then, of course, they're going to have a plan for the blitz, and they're going to have a plan for, picking up blitzers, hot routes, stuff like that. Just anything that getting the ball out quick out of Jalen Hurts' hands, screens, just anything, So they're going to have a plan for the blitz there. And then, of course, don't turn it over like in any game that we've seen the Eagles struggle in all season. And if they don't do that, I think it's going to be a 7-point Eagle victory. I got 30-23 Eagles. And, I think we're all going to be feeling pretty good. The offense puts up 30 points. Jalen Hurts and the team will look good. And we'll have something we can hang on to as we go to the next week. And I'll tell you who I think we're going to end up playing in the NFC Championship game. So that's how I see it going. Look, the Eagles are the more talented team, and they play their game, which they have all year. Then there's no reason that they shouldn't win this game, and I trust them to play their game. I really do. I just feel like people forgot about this coaching staff and Jalen Hurts and the preparation and the work that they put in all season, and the creativity that they've had on their offense. And I just don't understand how people have forgotten. I mean, the team was 14-1. They were pretty much an unstoppable offense the entire season, and the defense was just shutting people out in the second half. So, again, I think the concerns about limping into the playoffs are completely unwarranted. It doesn't, there's no precedent to it. And again, and I know people say, oh, the 2017 thing, you can't bring that up because it was so improbable. Well, yeah, that's the point. This would be way less improbable than the 2017 run because this team has their starting quarterback. We are going to have 21 of 22 starters from opening day playing in this game versus the Giants. The one guy being Avonte Maddox, and I at least expect that we should have him back the next week in the NFC Championship game if we get that far. So 21 and 22 guys. I mean, yeah, not a lot of people are that healthy. So when this team was healthy, they were just crushing teams. They were running teams off the field. So the rest versus rust thing doesn't concern me either with how the Eagles have approached their training camp. They came out strong on offense training camp, and how they came out of the bye week earlier this year when they took it to the Steelers. So I got 30-23. It's a one-score game, right around what the point spread is, 7.5. So that's the way I see that one going. But of course, that's not the only game we're going to get to enjoy this weekend. Excuse me, burping. Let me give you my predictions on what's going to happen this weekend, and we'll assemble our conference championship Sunday here. So Jaguars Chiefs. Unfortunately, I think the Doug story and the Jag story was fun, but this is where I see it coming to a bit of an end here. I think the Chiefs are just going to be too much. They're going to overmatch the Jags in Arrowhead. The Jags were able to have a home playoff game because they won their division and they beat the Chargers. But if the Chiefs are hanging 27 on them, going up 27-0, they are they're not going to let that up. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be pretty, a little bit closer than that, but I got a 10-point Chiefs victory. I got 30-20. Andy Reid takes out his disciple, Doug Peterson. And, Doug will get another crack at it next year, hopefully, with another year under Trevor Lawrence's belt and the rest of those guys. They get another chance to build that team. And I'm excited for the future down there in Jacksonville. But this is not their time to advance past the Kansas City Chiefs. Bills and Bengals. This one is so tough for me. I keep going back and forth on this one. But I think I'm going to have to go with what I said in the beginning of the show, and that I can't trust Josh Allen right now. And I know the game was in Cincinnati, but I do think the Bengals would have won that Monday night game a few weeks ago. I think the Bengals are just playing fantastic football right now, especially Joe Burrow, man. Joe Burrow is ice cold. I trust him way more than I trust Josh Allen right now, and that's what it's going to come down to for me. So I have a 28-24 Cincinnati Bengals victory. And then, of course, over in the NFC, I told you how I think the Eagles and the Giants is going to go. But then you got Cowboys 49ers. And, man, this is going to be a really close game, too, guys. I just want everybody to know that I don't think the Niners are going to crush the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a 3-point win here. I do have San Francisco winning 23-20. This has walk-off field goal written all over it. Two pretty good defenses, at least with how the Cowboys played last week and how the Niners have played all season. And I think this might end up being one of the best games of the entire season, really. Bills and Bengals has that sort of potential too. So that's how I see a lot of those games going there. I think we're in for a pretty fun weekend of football. So, looking forward to seeing how all those games go, and hopefully the Eagles will get a load of the 49ers, and, we'll be able to look ahead a little bit and talk about how that game goes. But, I just don't see any way that I get the any given Sunday thing or any given Saturday, whatever. It's going to be – the place is going to be on fire down there at the Link. There are going to be people having drinking for, let's see, 12 hours, I guess, if they're going to open the lots at 7, 8 a.m. The game starts at 8:15. It is going to be rowdy as hell down there. I would actually say don't expect there to be no Giants fans because New York fans are, they're right up the road there. And we've seen how Mets fans can take over Philly stadiums. I don't think it's going to be a takeover, mind you, because it's, the Link in a playoff game. That'd be blasphemous. But I do expect to hear a little bit of Giants fans at the stadium there. So that's going to do it for me today. Thank everybody for tuning in. I just want to run you through some of the sponsors for the show real quick. So this is Sherry's Ticket Town. Save 10% with the promo code EOP10. You can go to sports, concerts, theater, sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. No hidden fees there, and you get some good prices. So make sure you go there. That's, once again, sherrystickets.com for 10% off with the EOP10. And then, of course, our buddy Cherry Law Firm. So workers' compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, and criminal law. It's cherryinjurylaw.com, or you can call it 610-565-0300. That's my man, David Cherry, right there. So check it out. That's right, cherryinjurylaw.com. And then Eagles Game Day Live on edgeofphillysports.com. Don't miss out on all the action leading up to the Eagles-Giants game on Saturday night. Of course, check us out at Dolan's. Sorry, that's an older one, December to remember. But Dolan's Bar is always a sponsor on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. So every Eagles game, they got a memorabilia giveaway. Ooh, nice $8 cheesesteaks and wing cheese. Wow, ooh, great drink specials. That sounds like my kind of place on Eagles game day. So that's 24 East Sellers Ave, Ridley Park. And, of course, you can check it out on the website at dolansbar.com. So thanks again to everybody for tuning in. Sorry I couldn't do a live show today. A little bit of an issue with getting to the studio and whatnot. But, hopefully we're talking about a nice Eagles win next week, and nice Giants ass kicking, and we'll be talking about playing the 49ers, and we get to make fun of Dallas a little bit for losing their game as well. So hope to see you all there next time, and we'll be able to do a live fun show, and we'll have everybody commenting along, and hopefully talking about an Eagles win rather than an Eagles loss. So that is going to do it for me. See everybody next week. Go Birds, 30-23. See ya.